Well, greetings, world, and greetings, Seven Spot. Boy, have we got a treat for you today. We are celebrating a number of days. It's a civic holiday in Melbourne, and we're celebrating it with Tim Woods in his shed. And joining the our show today is my partner in crime, John uh, Minion from Evesham in the UK, where it's late at night, and it's also a holiday there too. It's Mother's Day, did you say, John?
Yeah, Mother's Day. Not so much a holiday, but yeah, Mother's Day. So yeah.
Yeah. And also joining the stream today is our good friend Laurent Weiss, who has joined us before in a live stream with his incredibly unique Lotus 7 replica. And he's come into something special. And I'm just going to add that to the stream just quickly, just so that we can see what Laurent has come into. He's come into a Lotus Europa of some sort. More or less, and he's interested in going all bike engine on that one, so that's going to be cool.
Definitely have a chat about that. I remember it's in secondary school. My maths teacher had one of those bright yellow.
Yeah,
I always remembered it.
So welcome to the stream, all, and why don't we just jump in and have a chat with Tim about what you're doing now. Tim, you're a mechanical engineer, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yep. So yeah, my professional career is a bit vast. So started off doing a lot of, I guess, metalwork, design and fabrication for a small architectural company, and then I got pretty much the dream job for an engineer. I became a test and evaluation engineer for Toyota locally here in Australia, and it was a pretty, I guess, looking back on it, dream role, because you weren't working for Toyota Australia. I was working for Toyota Japan as part of one of their what they call satellite technical centers. Mm-hmm. So that was suspension tuning, doing mountains of testing, suitability trips, you name it. We kind of did it locally with a lot of the full drives and like Land Cruisers, Hiluxes, Prados, Hiaces, and it was all overseas model related sort of thing. And then with the downturn of local manufacturing in Australia, we lost Ford, we lost Holden, which is our equivalent to GM. Yeah. We lost Mitsubishi. Toyota decided to pull the pin as well. So with that demise, I decided to pack up stumps and move to, I guess, a small engineering consultancy business with a guy I knew for a few years. And I'm now there as pretty much the engineering manager. There's only 4 of us, so, we basically do everything ourselves, sort of thing. But like the vast majority of our work is simulation for certification, design. We've just branched out into additive manufacturing. We've now got, I think, 5 big 3D printers. We've got a new workshop where we got trucks and all sorts of bits and pieces in there at the moment. So, my career has been quite vast and, exciting. So it's in a good spot now. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just going to throw this in here quickly before we get into the car. You've got a YouTube channel, and that's how I happened to find you. And because I was looking at that car that you made, and at first I thought, maybe is this a MEV? Is this like an Exo? What is this? So when you took on that project, did you take inspiration from other cars, or what? How did you take it on?
Yeah. So I guess like a lot of people, that first Ariel Atom Top Gear video where Clarkson was getting his face torn to bits, lit a real big spark in me. It's like, this is something that that I could do, sort of thing. And it bubbled away there for a bit, and then there was another vehicle on the low cost UK website, the Warner R4. Which there's Yeah, so I think the build diary is still up on that website, and I'm not sure if all the images still work, but it's very similar to mine. I saw that, and he put up a few videos of him doing like, I guess, autocrosses and stuff like that, and that thing was just off the chart, you know.
Bike engine,
and I'm like, bike engine, yep, R1
engine,
as well. And I always wanted to build something different. Like, so I'm a member of the Victorian Clubman Builders Group, which is a very big and active builders group down here. And I wanted to do something different. I thought, look, you know, if I'm going to do it, this is what I want to do. And I don't like working with fiberglass, so having something with minimal bodywork was something that did appeal to me. So I took a bit of inspiration.
Minimal bodywork, because fiberglass is nasty stuff. Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing.
I like it.
Just like so when I was at uni, we built one of the SAE racing cars, and we did our own bodywork with that, and I still got post-traumatic stress syndrome from all the molds and sanding and blocking and bogging and fiberglass. I was like, no, I don't want to do that again. I took. So I was like, I want to do something different, and with my role at work, I'm very much involved also with the regulation side of things from ICVs and compliance. So I thought, look, if I'm going to do it, I've got the skills, I've got the knowledge, I've got the contacts, so let's give it a crack and see what I can do with this.
See where you go.
So that was 3-4 years ago now, and now it's pretty much we're driving it around on the road. We've got some special licensing for us to do testing and stuff like that. Just now going through the process of doing all the engineering and stuff for complete sign off.
I was going to say, to get it registered on the road over there, we have what's called the IVA test, which is like a MOT test on steroids. Did you have to go through a similar kind of test with paperwork and that kind of thing?
There is a mountain of paperwork, absolute mountain of it. So basically, what they ask you to do, well, there's two sets of rules. We've got the Australian design rules, which are very much aligned with the ECE requirements coming out of Europe. And then we've got another document called VSB 14, which is the Vehicle Standards Bulletin. And basically, it's a combination of those two for either modified vehicles or self-built vehicles. The issue is a lot of time the states have different interpretations of the ADRs and these rules. Like they're very vague, sort of thing.
That's similar in the USA, where different states have completely different rules.
But it can be quite difficult from discussing with some of my Aussie friends, with a bike engine car in some states. Just like forget about it.
So it's open to interpretation. So like one of the things I've got to do is the noise test, and depending on who you talk to is at what speed you test at. So you can kind of go around in circles, but and then also too you engage with what we call a registered engineer, or in Victoria we call them a VAS engineer. So they're a sole trader or their own business, but they're I guess approved, independent, but they and it's their job to review the vehicle and review it against the guidelines and give their approval and sign it off, sort of thing. So you have situations where the interpretation is different between each of these engineers, and then it's different between each state, and so it's a real for someone who doesn't stay up all night reading regulations. It can get caught out, and we've been involved in a few projects at work, where quite a few actually, where like someone will come to us and say, look, I've built this car, I was doing what I thought was right, I went presented to the engineer. He said, "Where's your documentation?" I don't have it, so we got to start again.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God! Yeah.
It's so frustrating, sort of thing. Like, I'm very lucky in the position I'm in, where, so for example, one of the things you got to do is verify all your suspension components against certain loads and stuff like that, and the loads have got to be applied at the tire contact patch. So the only way you can really do it is via computer simulation.
Yeah.
So I've got all the tools to do all that. All my work gets, I guess, cross-verified by my work and employee and stuff like that. So that all gets checked off, and that's how it can be built. You know, if you're building a car in your shed sort of thing, and you don't have access to those tools, you've got to pay someone to do that.
Yeah,
and that could run into the thousands quite quickly.
Yeah.
And you know, you can imagine some poor bloke, and this happens a lot. They buy a kit or components out of the US, and they say, it's been used on a Mustang 2 or something for 30 years. We haven't had any problems. They present it to the engineer, and the engineer goes, "Where's your documentation?" And bloke goes, "I don't have any. I just bought it."
And that's horrible. Yeah.
I think I just saw someone on a club on site in Australia who was selling off his kit to a different state where it can get licensed more easily. Sad. Very sad.
Yeah. Oh, and the transfer between states too is starting to get really ugly too, because now you've got different states having different rules. If you have a second-hand vehicle transferring between states, the new state may ask for that vehicle to go through engineering again, which
that is insane. So it's not a national rule; it's like a regional. Oh my
state.
So,
there are some benefits to being a sand grabber.
Yeah. So it's so, like, because they'll turn around and say, let's say New South Wales at the moment is the worst for this. So you'll have they've got the strictest rules at the moment. And you'll have a vehicle come in, say, from Queensland, which is just up across the border up in the north. They've got probably the laxest rules. So you'll have some poor bloke.
I thought Western Australia had it pretty lax rules too.
Yeah, they're on the other side of the country. No one really deals with them, really. They're like, they might as well be their own separate country, you know, like they're that far away. And it's just
forget about those. Yeah.
So like you'll have like a bloke buy a Clubman, you know, in Queensland, move it an hour or two south of the border, and then New South Wales would go, no, you've got to redo all the engineering. And a lot of time, you know, the vehicle may be 10, 12, 20 years old, and there's not enough documentation. And it can be really ugly, really messy.
But that's harassment. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to, I guess, the way our whole setup for regulations is in this country, where you have the Australian design rules, which are governed by the federal government. But they don't want to get into this space of modified vehicles or one-off vehicles. They just say, look, that's the state's prerogative to deal with. And that's where the problems start, where, you know, the feds just go, no, I don't want to touch it. And then the states turn around and go, what are we supposed to do? And it can be a bit of a contest to say who can be the best on road safety. And that's where this sort of stuff starts happening. Then you get political...
Almost each state, I wouldn't say making up their own rules, but changing them to suit whatever their agenda is, I would guess.
Oh, yeah. Same with the environmental agenda at the moment. Like, I think that's probably one of the biggest problems we have. You know, like we had issues at the moment. Well, it's gotten better, but it's still a bit of a mess where they had these rules written and you had to do an emissions test, but the equipment required like a OEM level of test lab, which costs millions of dollars. And we had one facility that was somewhat open to doing that, but they were charging like $2,500 for an emissions test. And they went big. Then the dyno broke, and they went out of business because the cost to repair the dyno was enormous. So they just said, it's not feasible for us to do this anymore. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So then you had the state going around going, well, what are we supposed to do? And the states just, because they're very afraid to make a decision because of the powers to be up above, or because of different political agendas, it becomes a handballed exercise and the whole, very much so. So, I've had quite a few meetings with the regulators on this, and you can understand where they're coming from because they get told that this is the political agenda, this is what we've got to stick to, so you've got to make that work. And the poor blokes, who's the, trying to deal with this, when someone turns around and says, oh, it will cost you $1 million, no private enterprise is going to pay $1 million for a dyno setup for, a few tests a year. Yeah. And that's the environment you're in, where there is a disconnect between, I guess, the power brokers, what they want to do, and also what is feasible from an engineering point of view and a business a profitability point of view. Because unfortunately, unlike I guess in the UK, where a lot of your MOT stuff is sponsored by your government, where you go to a test centre and do it. Exactly. A lot of our stuff is private enterprise, just because there isn't the volume to
to do it. Yeah, to
do it.
In the UK, all our MOT stations have emissions testing machines, rolling roads, pretty much. So very, very geared up to car and inspecting cars. But they've now set up completely different IVA stations that you have to take your car to. But that's all set up properly. There's I think there's 8 or 9, something like that. There's quite a few anyway. All around the UK that you can take your car to. So very geared up. Whereas if you look at Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, you've got no chance because they don't even understand what a kit car is. Northern Ireland, I think there's one testing station which isn't really geared up to do a lot. So Northern Ireland you'll struggle with. So I know a lot of people will bring their cars from Northern Ireland into the UK, get them IVA'd, and then take them back, and they don't have to then go through another test in Ireland. It's once you've got that bit of paper, that sticks for life. You don't have to get another test ever again.
Yeah. Well, we're having a situation here where in Victoria we didn't have a test site, but they still required you to do the test. We had quite a few people going to we had people going to Sydney, New South Wales, like taking their cars up on trailers, doing the 950 Ks or whatever it is, go up and do the testing up there. And then that facility, that dyno broke, and so that shut down that. Then we had other people going to South Australia, Adelaide. So that's another 700 and something kilometres to do the testing. So, when you have a lack of, I guess, state funded and operated test facilities and stuff like that, it becomes a real balance between the economics of running it as a business, which everyone wants to, you got to make money out of this sort of stuff if you're running it as a private enterprise. And then and what's actually practical. So it's a real balancing act, and that's what we're finding over the last few years has been a real struggle, not just in Victoria and Australia, for the whole thing. Because with the demise of the local automotive industry, we've seen a lot of stuff pack up and disappear. So and it's not just the test facilities; it's stuff such as just getting components and raw supply sort of thing. So, for example, at work we were wanting to do some electroplating of our 3D printed parts to make them look like chrome and all those bezel sort of stuff. And we thought, this shouldn't be a problem. But it's like, ringing around all the places, they go, don't do it anymore. There's no demand for it anymore. You ring and then they said, look, you're going to have to speak to the importer of the materials because no one does it anymore. And we spoke to them, and they said, basically, with the demise of local manufacturing, the auto industry, there's no need, so we don't import it anymore. So
there's no market.
They go,
forget about it.
Yep. It's like, unless you want to bring in a pallet of stuff, it's like, no, we don't want to.
I only want to.
but it's that sort of thing. Like, we're starting to see some return of that skill set and that manufacturing stuff with some businesses doing some vehicle modification stuff locally. So some of it is coming back, but not to the extent that it was a few years ago. Yeah.
I know it's probably completely different. I mean, you mentioned about the different states and different laws, but in the UK, you've got one IVA manual, which you can get from the driver vehicle. You can download it online. That is the Bible. And it doesn't matter where you are in the UK, that is the Bible. As long as you stick to that, you'll get a pass. So none of this, a different rule for this in one state, different rule for that, one county. There is one book, and that is this. Yeah, it's a huge book. It's a great document. Like, I've spent many a nights reading that document and using it as the basis for several proposals locally. And like the other really, I guess, proactive regulations and documents out of New Zealand. They've got a similar document to the IVA document. But what they do is that if there is something that sits outside of that document, you can actually write a proposal into them to the governing body, and they've got a board that has police officers on it, engineers, a few people from like the roads authority, and they will give you direction and what you have to do to get your thing passed. So, for example, we were working with a client who was wanting to, I think, bring a few vehicles into New Zealand, and the suspension components didn't meet the written document requirements. So, so they wrote a proposal to this board. The board said, if you do X, Y, Z, and provide us evidence, we will pass it. And that's what they did. We did the analysis for them and passed it, and away it goes. And you think, that is such a proactive way of dealing with these sorts of vehicles and stuff moving forward. It's rather than just saying, no, that's not going to work and we'll fail it. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so forward thinking, and you're like, well, it doesn't take much time and effort to do what they do. The board probably meets once by like every second month or every quarter. They go through the proposals. They say, if you do X, Y, Z, we'll put a rubber stamp on it. And it's like, yep, sweet. Thank you very much. Like, it's such a forward way of thinking. Unlike us, where a lot of time you'll send a question in and you won't get a response because the person behind the desk doesn't want the liability of saying yes to whatever they've done. Because you get into situations where someone goes, oh, rubber stamp it. Let's say something happens, the authorities go after that person behind the desk, and sorry, just my kid wanting some food. So let's say something happens with that car, the authorities go after that person behind the desk and go, why'd you approve it? And they go, I thought this, I thought that. And they go, well, maybe you should have thought it better, so we're going to reprimand you. It's that sort of thing which gives a lot of people who work in these sort of environments a lot of uneasiness, you could say. So, if you had some, like what they have in New Zealand, like in New Zealand, if you've got that higher authority that turns around and says, this is what it is, the higher authority takes, ownership of it, then everyone's happy. So,
absolutely. So coming onto your car then and your build.
Yep.
With all the knowledge that you've got of the legislations and tests and stuff, how did you approach building your car? Because you built the space frame as well, didn't you?
Well,
So,
do you have your car with you, or can you rotate?
Yep.
Let's rotate that.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look.
So that's it there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So basically, the whole thing was designed in CAD first.
Yeah.
And basically, all the analysis was done before we actually built it. So so all the suspension geometry we analyze first. One of the other things you have to do locally for chassis is a torsion and beam test, which is basically twist it. So all that was done via computer simulation beforehand. So before we, started cutting tubes and anger sort of thing, we had a real good understanding of what we're going to do from a compliance point of view prior to it. So, it was a lot of doing proposals and talking to the signatory engineer. It's like, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Getting their sign off somewhat before we did anything. Which it was probably one of the most, I guess, helpful things because, for example, like all the suspension on this thing is all custom. So we've got custom uprights, front and rear, custom control arms. So that's all custom sort of thing. So, being able to do all that documentation and analysis, present it to the engineer, get his approval before, we start cutting in anger was definitely something that assisted out greatly with this. So I guess that's probably the key thing prior to building it. We're building 2 of these. So me and my mate's building a second one. He's got a 2011 R1 in it at the moment. That's, I guess,
what did you that's a 2008 R1, isn't it? What did you do about the rear drive? Is that chain drive, or did you manage to squeeze a prop shaft in?
And
so it's a chain drive.
Is the chain drive self-manufactured, or did you go to the people at Quaife?
So it's a Quaife one. I don't know if you can see it in there. So it's on a. I guess I'll just grab a bit of a light. Sorry.
It's okay.
So it's a Quaife LSD on it through a chain drive and an idle gear, just so I could really minimise the distance between the front and rear sprockets.
The Quaife LSDs aren't cheap either.
Well, I think off the shelf they're about $1,100 Australian. But I thought to myself, look, that's the right way. I don't know if you can see all that in there. I don't know if you can see. So you got.
You can see it right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a chain drive onto the Quaife LSD custom sprocket, and it's got I guess tie rods to move it back and give you the actual chain adjustment required on that. So. For the price of it, I thought, that wasn't that bad, considering if you buy like a MX5 LSD for let's say $600-700 Australian, you've got to pay for making the casing, seals, bearings, all that sort of stuff. Where all that came with the Quaife LSD chain drive. So that's kind of why we decided to go with that one, because a lot of time too with this sort of project, it's like, where's your time best spent? You got to think of it like, I've only got a finite amount of time, so is it worthwhile spending the extra money to get the chain drive LSD and focus the time elsewhere? So, for example, one of the things we did was we got all the tubes for the chassis laser cut. So it cost about 2,500 Australian for all the tubes cut on 2 vehicles. But it meant that the vehicle went together in a weekend.
Wow.
That is good.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to adjust any tubes or anything. We had a big jigging table for it to all go on. But it went together in a weekend and then went off to get welded, fully welded. So, in the previous vehicles I've done at uni, you could spend 4 or 5 hours to get a tube correct, sort of thing. Where where's that time better spent? So if you can see here, these sort of joins here, that was bang on perfect out of the
So
out of the laser cut.
Is this TIG welded on this frame?
Depending on where it is, it's a mixture of TIG and MIG,
Okay.
just from a sake of access and stuff point of view. So, like a lot of things too, you will see, like up here on the fuel tank mounts. What we did was when we got the tubes laser notched, we put in little tabs in the tubes, and there was receiving tabs on the brackets here. So they were all self-jigging as well. So basically, when we're building it, you didn't have to do any measuring for all these brackets and tabs. They all just fit in together. It was like a big jigsaw.
I'm going to jump in here for a moment, Tim. We had a message here from someone who's watching on YouTube. Brian Bush says it's a tidy-looking motor, and someone who's watching it on 7Spot, is that a standard airbox, and are you running a power commander?
So it is the standard airbox. So once again, it was kind of like one of those things was for emissions, I wanted to keep things stock as possible initially. Yes. And I wanted to, I guess, minimize what I needed to get it up and running. So it's running the standard fuel tank and airbox, just to make sure I could get it up and running and get everything going. From
the fuel tank, may I ask?
At the moment, the fuel tank is the standard bike fuel tank sitting on top. So,
there it is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
So I am contemplating going bigger.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, at the moment I'm contemplating going bigger just from a range point of view. Mm-hmm. But at the moment, so like underneath it's just got a carbon cover on it. I'm going to take that off. Oops. So it's just running the standard airbox. Ooh, sorry. Because like with these ones, you got that variable intake runner system and all that sort of stuff. I was just very concerned of if I started fiddling with all that, the emissions point of view may be detrimental. Mm-hmm. And because I've got to do my emissions test, I wanted to keep things as stock as possible and then revisit it later. From a power commander point of view, I'm not running anything like that at the moment. One of the issues we've had was with this dash, with the clock system on the R1s, it does have like a small inbuilt power commander in it, much to my, I guess, disappointment when I did my first emissions test a while back, where the trim on the injector timing was way out on it. So now that, which I find quite surprising. Like, I don't know how a manufacturer can allow for post-registered, post-built fiddling of injector timers. Amazes me, considering my background. But it does make a difference. We've had a 5-gas on it, and the CO does change dramatically when you fiddle with those values. So it is making it go way too rich. So I guess my first thing is to get it registered, get it going, and then start looking at power and engine modifications post that, just to make sure, because at the end of the day, the first thing I want to do is get this thing built, registered, and demonstrate that, first of all, you can build something like this locally and you can get it engineered and on the road. Mm-hmm. That's my, I guess, first thing, and then post that, we'll start looking at other.
And as a project, getting it through its initial rego, that'll do well for future models that you may produce.
Because we are starting to think about like the possibility of an EV version of this. We're in talks with a few EV component suppliers and stuff like that. It just comes to the first thing we want to do first is demonstrate that everything on this car is possible. You can meet all the requirements, it passes, and then we'll start thinking about, do we go down the road of doing a an EV version, or do we proceed with another version of this with say like a current model R1 engine and stuff like that?
Another 7-spot viewer is asking, did you disable things like the stand down sensor and start in neutral only?
Yep. So we disabled the stand down sensor. So we've wired it in such a way that the bike always thinks that the stand is up. Yeah. So that enables us to get around that. At the moment, it's wired, so you have to start in neutral. Mm-hmm. But we are working on some circuitry now to also enable it to start when you've got the clutch in. So because I've been caught out like that a couple of times where especially when I was first driving it, when I didn't have the clutch ratio correct, and I was doing a lot of stalling at takeoff, and having to find neutral sometimes when you're in the pressure situation of other cars beeping you from behind is a bit
unnerving,
bit nerve-wracking. Yeah. So being able to just put the foot on the clutch,
especially if you're stationary and the car's not moving a little bit, it's way easier to get it into neutral when the car's moving or rocking it backwards and forwards. But when you're stationary, it locks you out, but it's very difficult to find. Or can be.
If you've got the gears loaded or the dogs loaded and it won't release, like a few times I've had to put my foot out the side and just give it a bit of a bump just to get the load off it, and then it's like, okay, cool, now I can go. So so definitely the ability to clutch in, start it rather than in neutral is something that we're working on.
That's very cool. And just a dumb question: how much does your Exo weigh?
So with fuel, water, oil, it was 420 kilos.
Nice.
So there is a bit of weight I can pull out of it.
That is light.
So like it's like anything. There's a few things on the car that's over-engineered that I can start thinking about pulling weight out of it. When I first started building it, I really wanted to get below 400. I thought, that was like crazy goal. Can it be less than 400? So I think 420 is not too bad for first prototype, considering the target was 400. It's such things as like
lightweight battery. Using a lightweight battery.
I've had a few.
Got a Varley red top in ours. Five and a half kilos, I think it is.
Yeah. So the first battery I went was a lipo. I guess what they call like a power sport battery for jet skis and all that sort of stuff. And that weighed 2.5 kilos, and it was 850 CCA. Like it had a lot of amps, but I had quite a few issues. I'm not sure if it was the battery or the way it was wired, especially with the reverse, but I had a battery go open cell on me, which basically killed the whole thing.
Yes.
So, and it wasn't proven to be reliable enough. So I've now gone to an AGM power sport battery, which weighs about 6 kilos or something, which I'm getting more reliability out of, which I'm happier with. But I'm having issues at the moment with the charging circuit. So I think I need to have a better look at the regulator, the rectifier, to see what's going on. But I'm not getting consistent charge of it.
Are you using the R1 electrical charging system from A to Z?
Yeah. So using the generator and the rectifier, is all the standard R1 stuff. I had the typical Yamaha R1 stator magnet issue, which knocked me out for a few months there. So it was funny. Like all the stuff I was reading online was like, check your stator, make sure all the magnets are in place, check to make sure that the glue is, not brittle and stuff. And before I put it in the car, I checked it and went, yep, okay, it all looks good. And within probably a week or two of driving, I noticed that the battery voltage started dropping, and I was like, oh, geez. So lucky I was close to home, pulled it in, checked the resistance across the stator, and the magnets had decided to let go and made a huge mess in in the engine. So I've replaced the stator and and all the internals and stuff like that for that.
And regarding your clutch, your R1
I was going to say
clutch,
the R1 rectifiers, they're known. Go on, carry on.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was talking about the clutch now from your R1. Yep. Did you have to have a different clutch installed, heavier springs, or different clutch plates, or did you use the same installation, original?
So I've definitely used heavier springs with the new clutch pads. So that has definitely helped with that.
And
the other thing I've done,
basket.
Same basket. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So when I pulled it all out, that looked in good nick. So I've kept all that. The other thing I've done is change the ratio of the clutch arm on the motor, making it longer. Mm-hmm. And then changing the, I guess what you call the pickup point. Because when I was first learning how to drive it, I had it very much set as per the manual, but that take-up point was way too high, and so by changing the lever ratio on the engine and changing where that pickup point is, it has made it a lot easier to drive. It's still very nerving. It's still very nerving because you don't get that nice pickup feel.
You end up with a longer pedal travel.
Yeah, and the pickup point's now in the middle. So you get to that point where you kind of dump the clutch to get going in most situations, just so you don't stall it. But it is pretty easy to drive. So when I first built it, I had a final gear ratio of around 3.7, but I wasn't liking how that was performing at 100 k's an hour. I just thought the revs were too much, so I've dropped it down to almost 3.1 now, which it is nicer to drive at those higher speeds. But I don't have the I guess because the thing is so light, I don't have the takeoff issues that other people experience when they throw it into a car of of another 100 and something kilos.
Well, that's an interesting point, because Laurent, as we mentioned earlier, is having a slightly heavier vehicle to push along.
Yes,
the Europa. So you're listening very intently to all the goodies that you're sharing.
Yeah, because I guess one of the beauties of what I've done is, because I've got the chain drive sort of thing, I've been playing a lot with the ratios, but just by changing that front sprocket and find out what's comfortable to drive and what's comfortable to take off on. I'm actually thinking of going lower again, maybe like 2.9, and see how that goes. But for me to go to 2.9, I need to make a new rear sprocket. It isn't much of an effort.
And you can do that in-house. I think that you've got your own milling equipment there.
Well, we don't have it in-house, but we got a lot of access to local workshops that do have that equipment that we do a lot of work with. So like a lot of the stuff I get, a really good support and help with making locally. So. We assist them with some stuff. They do some stuff for us. So it's very much I guess, in kind.
How about your wheels and tires? What sizes are you using?
So at the moment, I've got Enke's rims on it, 15 by 7 RP F1s. So they were the lightest rim I could find that was legal. Because a lot of guys, you can run like the split rims and sort of thing, but you're not allowed to run split rims from a legality point of view. Tires are 195 50 15s, so got 15s on it. That's a lot of race guys use split rims and so forth, and three-piece rims. But from a legality point of view, you have to run what they call marked rims, and at the moment, with all the changes in the regulations, no one is doing a marked, that I'm aware of, a marked three-piece rim.
Now, I have a question regarding your wheel size. I'm struggling with my conversion. Shall I keep 13-inch rims or go to 14 or 15 with a lower profile tire? So what's your take on that?
I guess from a lot of, not so much my research, but the research of a fellow, or our club president, Les Bone, who is a very, active member in both the clubman.
He is.
He's a great guy. He's done a lot of, because he's got two race cars at the moment. He's got a Birkin and I can't remember his other one. And he's done a lot of back-to-back testing with different wheel sizes, weights, and all that sort of thing. He finds that the 13-inch one is lighter. With that, 13-inch wheel and tire combination is lighter, which can give you better performance. But you do run into a lot of packaging issues, especially with new off-the-shelf components. So, like you can't really run sliding calipers and stuff like that under the 13-inch setup. You just don't get the size of the disc and the caliper in that 13-inch stuff anymore. And a lot of people are finding the availability of 13-inch stuff, especially locally, is very hard. Especially now, 14-inch stuff too is very hard. It seems to be the new standard, especially from tire suppliers and wheel manufacturers, is 15 inches seems to be the standard. But there is a compromise because you are got more mass rotating around. For my vehicle point of view, I couldn't package it all in a 13-inch setup, and so that's why I went 15s for mine.
15s,
yeah. But like you kind of look at the early clubmans, like a lot of the Birkins, the early Westfields and Caterhams, you kind of need 13s to make them look right. When you look at that sort of style, like some of them, when they start running 15s, just don't look right from my perspective. Then you get into the larger clubmans like your MKs and stuff like that are suited to your K series and like the Duratec and stuff like that, and you kind of need 15s to make that whole proportional package look right. So at the end of the day, you got a rotating mass, and you kind of want to reduce that as much as possible, sort of thing. Well, it's like anything on the car, you want to reduce your mass as much as possible, but you kind of got to also look at what's feasible in today's market environment, sort of thing. Like a lot of guys were buying Avons and Hoosiers and stuff out of the UK or out of the US, but I think Avon they went out of business and someone else bought all their stock, I think, from memory. So I don't know if they're manufacturing stuff anymore. So the availability of performance 13-inch tires is becoming problematic, and a lot of guys locally were buying ex-Formula Ford tires because they were 13-inch back in the day. You could buy 13-inch Avons, secondhand from those guys relatively cheaply, and still have 80-90% rubber still left on. And that category is they've moved into different wheel sizes now. So unfortunately, I think you may be stuck with running 15s. I think is probably the way you'll probably have to go moving forward. Just from a packaging point of view, as mentioned, trying to fit calipers and somewhat like, if you went Willwoods or something like that, opposing calipers, you may be able to squeeze them into 13s, but if you're using like other brakes, you may run out of space real quickly.
Now, regarding your cooling system on your R1 setup, what did you do to get a good cooling? And did you have enough? Did you have to do it in different steps to figure out what was needed?
So at the moment, the radiator is positioned behind the car. So I'll just show you. So
I saw that's right. Yeah, right on the back, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very much the initial place for it was more aesthetic than anything, to try and make it all work. And with the fully shrouded radiator, it's very efficient at pulling heat out when the fans are on. But I'm not getting, I guess the passive airflow through with it as I would like. So what I've done is the other thing too is the fan. At the moment, I'm still using the standard ECU fan control for the cooling system. So the fans don't come on until it's 105 or 106 degrees Celsius in the cooling system.
Which is normal.
That's pretty high.
Normal operating. Yeah, well, that's about normal for an R1. 105 is what they used to run out in the bike. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people drop them down too low into the 70s, and if you do that, when you're running the engine, you won't get all the carbon burn off. And your oil will just come out completely black. So the bike engines always run hot, and you do want to try and keep them. We've had ours up to 110, but that was a complete failure on our part. Didn't check the water level, but 105 is probably your max you want to go. Slightly under, I think ours runs normally around 88 to 90 on good open roads.
Yeah. So what I've done is only recently I've installed a digital fan controller. Which will pick up a separate temperature signal, and then I'm going to bring those temperatures down a little bit and have the fan come on probably around about 90 something, and trying to maintain balance between, say, because a lot of the bike guys, you do get that additional airflow when you are on the open road. But also too, in the bike, you've got all that front wheels and fairings and all that stuff in the way. So even on the bike, it doesn't get a lot of airflow. And all of the bike guys, as you said, the bike runs hot. So it's finding that balance between, and also too, where I've got the radiators now, the radiator runs are very short. I don't need a lot of, piping and fluid. I didn't want to carry excess fluid, so. It's going to be a mixture between maybe some additional ducting to try and pull a little bit more airflow through it, and then a different fan control to try and bring the fan on a bit earlier. Because it's fully shrouded with a big fan on the back. When that fan is on, it's very efficient at pulling the heat out of it. It can drop from, say, when it gets to 107, it drops it down to 103 or 102 very quickly. So it's very efficient, but it's finding that balance, because the other thing too you've got to be concerned about is getting hot spots in the motor, because where the motor is in my car is different to how it was on a bike, and
certainly different from how it would be on John's MK. I mean, he's going to get a lot of channeled air going right at the radiator. Yours is sitting at the back, and I don't know how much air you're actually going to funnel into yours at all. And for Vermont, I mean, if he's going to, I've seen other Europa bike engine conversions, and they got their radiator sitting in the back there. How much you're going to have to get some air channel ways to get air flowing over the radiator, Vermont.
I will keep my radiator up front like the original. I think is the best bet.
Mm-hmm. And then run it down through the tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So That's definitely the way to do it. And then, yeah, if you have good fan control, I guess with that sort of setup, you just need to be careful of where you're measuring the temperature, because you will get a lot of loss through the pipes.
Yes.
And you just need to make sure that that's accurate with what you're seeing at the engine. And
bonus is, though, you don't have to buy a heater for your cabin.
yeah, you just lean a bit over to the pipes and away you go. So I think Oliver Pickard with his Mosquito released a video recently where he was running his made pipes for his Mosquito, running them up the center tunnel.
Yeah,
which is a very it's a long video. I think it's like an hour and 30 minutes.
He likes to talk, as he says.
Yeah. But yeah, they're like the challenging thing of routing those sort of pipes and stuff can be quite challenging. And yeah, I think Oliver did a really good job considering all the other stuff he's got in his tunnel there, with his shifter and heater matrix and stuff like that. He has to run all that stuff up. But
it's a tiny car too. It's just like, where do you fit it all?
Yeah. But yeah, I guess one of the issues, you think about it, like if you're chasing lightness, if you're running two pipes that run up the center, like how much more water is that and weight, and and the issue I saw for me personally was, if I was going to start doing that, you start getting, I guess weight creep, you could call it. It's like, just a few extra kilos here, a few extra kilos there, and and you start getting that weight creep. Where for me, I was like, okay, look, I'm not sure what this is going to happen, so I'll run it out the back. I'm minimizing my coolant lines and coolant mass as much as possible, and then see what happens. And if I've got to change it, I've got to change it. For me, this is very much a learning experience, prototype, sort of thing. So it's have I got things wrong? Yes, I have. And am I going to learn and change? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to learn and change and move forward. And that's the kind of, that's the beauty of these sort of cars. Like, they're very much a learning experience. And if you go into the whole I guess endeavor thinking, look, I'm gonna stuff some things up here, I'm gonna make some mistakes, but I'm gonna learn from them and change it. If you go in with that mindset, you're gonna come out with a lot better product. Like, I have been involved in a few projects where the people have been very stubborn, and it's like, oh no, I need to get it right first time. It's like, you're not going to. You're like,
it won't happen.
Like,
it doesn't happen like that way.
It doesn't happen. Like, even because during my time at Toyota, like we were working on prototypes held together with duct tape, sort of thing, and and they make a lot of mistakes considering all their engineering resources available. So, with any sort of thing, you go in with the mindset of it's not going to be perfect. You open your eyes, allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to go, I don't like that. Cut it out. Change it. If you go into with that mindset, the whole experience becomes a lot more enjoyable. And
that's a kit car for you.
Yep.
I got a dumb question for you, Tim.
Exactly.
I mean, this is your project car, but is this a project that you're doing under the auspices of your company?
Yeah. So it's kind of like so at the moment, this is my personal vehicle, but I'm using a lot of the work resources to, I guess, fabricate, to analyze and stuff like that. And I guess also through my work, I've got a lot of additional resources, like knowledge and stuff I can leverage and stuff. So, and so the plan is, this will be my vehicle and so forth. I mean, like, there's a lot of 3D printed stuff on this car that we've done through work as testing exercises and I guess learning exercises. So the plan is if everything works out well and people want more or sort of thing, then we may start manufacturing them under the business entity. moving
And
forward.
that's the segue I was looking for. If one wanted to be in contact with Tim Wood about this Exo vehicle, how would they reach you?
Probably. I'm just trying to think. Probably through my work email address, which I'll share.
Send me a DM and I'll put it in the description here, and maybe the website or the Facebook page for the company, in case people want to see what you are about in terms of your engineering work. And I think that'd be great.
Yeah, because there's this vehicle that we're doing, and then we're doing my boss's vehicle. It's also an independently constructed vehicle, but it's more like a desert pre-runner racer sort of thing. I think it's got 26 inch of suspension travel at the front, 28 at the
You're going to
rear.
send this over to Western Australia, aren't you?
Yeah. This thing is going to be pretty wild. So we'll go. You'll need it to get to Western Australia, sort of thing, with the roads. 36 inch wheels or something like that. It's and we've had a lot of interest with that sort of vehicle from I guess the services sort of thing. So within probably 2 to 3 years, we may be offering 2 vehicles, very different sort of vehicles. Mine, 400 kilos in his vehicle. So it's quite funny because my vehicle could fit on the back of his. So it's
send us a couple of pics of that one too, and then we'll put that up on our subspot. Love that.
Yep, we'll do.
Absolutely. Well, as usual, when we start off to do a 15 to 20 minute show, we end up going for an hour and 1 minute and 48 seconds. But Tim, I want to say thank you so much. This is just awesome to see your ride and what you're doing. I'm really chuffed for you. I think it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys, and I'm more than happy to jump on anytime.
All right, brilliant. Looking forward to it. And I'm going to put the two of you, your 2 profiles together, so that you and Laurent can confabulate on on the right way to go. What the insane bit of business that Laurent is to take on.
My God, yeah.
Give it a go. It's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Yes. I have 100 questions, like easy.
Absolutely fabulous, guys. I'm going to take this time to say thank you, John, for co-hosting the show with me, Tim and Laurent for joining us today. And with that, as I always say, we will see you at 7 Spot.
Yeah, be seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, guys.